Hey, Dan. Can you hear me?
Robin, how are you doing?
I'm good. Sorry, I'm
I
trying to
can,
get I've got to click our Instagram go live. Sorry, 1 second.
of course I can hear you,
Okay.
Robin. I have perfect Wi-Fi.
You have less than perfect Wi-Fi, my friend. I would just like the record to show that I was on time today. And once again, my friend Dan was a little bit delayed because of his Wi-Fi. No judgment.
Robin, how are you doing otherwise?
I'm doing well. Wait, no, listen, I want to go right to you because don't you have some breaking news here about...
Yes, just not even an hour and a half old. There was a big press conference at City Hall at 11 a.m. just an hour and a half ago, not even, announcing the Belmont on Broadway Festival, a 6-day fan fest celebration is one of the taglines to it. It's going to be June 4th through 9th, obviously coinciding with the not just the Belmont Stakes, but a few days before that, as well as the 4 days of racing for the Belmont, and pretty neat stuff. And I'm going to jump to the chase a little bit here. That they're going to have they're going to shut down Broadway on that Wednesday and bring in the band Blues Traveler and have a free,
really?
free all ages alcohol free concert on Broadway. With Blues Traveler. I don't know if there's an opener, but that's
I know that. I actually know that band. This is exciting.
It is neat. They certainly had some good hits. I think they kind of bring that maybe party appeal to upbeat appeal to it. Even though they do have blues in their name, they're more kind of a good catchy tunes. And there's a lot of things going on that week, though. It's not just that, but that would be the highlight of it. Well, the highlight, of course, being the Belmont Stakes itself. But as far as the celebration, the downtown celebration, the Blues Traveler appearance, the free concert on Broadway will be that. And I know we got to give a lot of credit here because I know people have been planning this for months. I think originally they wanted something even bigger. And who knows, maybe that's what's in store for next year, Robin. But this is still pretty big. This is kind of fun. I'm an unabashed Saratoga lover. There's times when I'm annoyed at Saratoga, traffic and so forth, but I'm going to enjoy the whole thing about the Belmont. I hope, I intend to anyway. And let me read a couple of things that are happening that week. Tuesday, June 4th, Embrace the Belmont at the National Museum Hall of Fame. I interviewed Ms. Donna Brothers from NBC Sports, a former jockey, just last week or maybe 2 weeks ago on that. Therapeutic Horses of Saratoga, my good friends there, Dr. Aaron Christopher Sisk and Meg Koloski. They're working with the National Museum and Racing Hall of Fame to have that event there. That's going to be kind of a Belmont handicapping thing, but for non-handicappers is the way I see it. That's kind of neat. Wednesday, as we just talked about, the free concert on Broadway in front of the City Center. I've got a list here. This is all on the Discover Saratoga website, incidentally. And I did just post it on Saratoga Report. That's why I was sorry, Robin, I left you hanging again.
That's quite all right.
Thursday, June 6th, the Belmont Gala at the National Museum and Racing Hall of Fame. Friday, Hardy at Saratoga Performing Arts Center. I believe that's an up-and-coming country band. Oh God, I'm such an old guy. I don't know who these kids are.
Hey, we know Blues Traveler. We know somebody.
That's because they were around in the 90s.
Exactly.
Saturday, need I mention what's happening Saturday? The 156th running of the Belmont Stakes at Saratoga Racecourse. Sunday, June 9th, the Opera Saratoga Gala at Canfield Casino. Plus live music, watch parties, a storefront window decorating contest organized by the DBA. Shout out to them. Good. That's going to be fun. And apparently a lot more. That's what I have right now.
Well, it sounds like it's going to be a crazy week in Saratoga. Lots of fun stuff. I'm hoping, of course, public safety has, enough money and resources to be able to handle that week because, man, is that going to be a strain on them?
We're talking. It's more than just crowds. It's dignitaries. It's celebrities. It's a lot going on here. God forbid if it's a Triple Crown race, right? If there's a Triple Crown on the line.
Yeah, no, especially when we're like firing on all cylinders and we have the track going and we have stuff going at SPAC and we're talking about downtown road closures. That means, there's just so many areas where public safety is needed to make sure things are kept calm and maintained and safe. So gosh, oh yeah, that's going to be a big week for them.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people at City Hall and beyond. The Chamber, Discover Saratoga, DBA. Obviously, some people at City Hall working on security as well as NYRA and aerial law enforcement, not just here at Saratoga. That's obviously the most important. But man, a lot of work being put into so many facets of this. I tip my hats to everybody involved. We probably don't even know a fraction of it.
Yeah, I know. And, the summer is all obviously like a trying and difficult time for public safety, especially the police department. And that's when the track starts, midway through July. So, yeah, it'll be a long summer, but hopefully a good, safe one. And all those activities sound awesome. It sounds like such a fun week.
Yeah, it will be. And the flip side of that is I'm going to enjoy it. I'm excited for it, but I wouldn't blame someone if they put their home on Airbnb for 10 grand and went to Lake Placid. Got that.
I was just going to say the only silver lining of my not putting my house on Airbnb, because I'm pretty sure on Caroline Street where we're located, I could be charging a bundle, is that I'll get to enjoy Belmont on Broadway because I'll be here.
Yeah, exactly. I moved here partially because of things like that. That changed somewhat when I got married and had a family, but only somewhat. And my daughters, we don't go to the track too often, but they enjoy Saratoga and they enjoy the track.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you for bringing us that news. That's exciting. Even more to look forward to.
Yeah, exactly.
So, do we want to transition into one of our other kind of newer news stories here?
Go for it.
So, I'm going to bring in our guest, Mike Brandy. Mike, how are you?
Hey guys, good. How are you? Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you great.
Right. Good to see you both.
Good to see you as well. So, Mike, you're here in, well, two kind of capacities. First, you are the chair of the Saratoga Springs Republican Committee. I just want to point that out as one of your leadership roles here. And you are also an attorney. And we were very happy to come on today because there's been this request for proposals that's gone out from Commissioner Dylan Moran's department, the accounts department, that was just posted on Saratoga Springs Politics blog, that indicates they're looking to hire attorneys for 3 of the specific departments in City Hall. So the RFP is looking for a request for proposals for an attorney for the Public Works Department, an attorney for the Commissioner of Accounts Department, and an attorney for the Finance Department, which would be in addition to our city attorney and assistant city attorney, and labor attorneys and so forth. So I know this has kind of struck some alarm with some people, and we would love to get your thoughts, Mike, on whether or not you think this is needed or kind of what the ramifications might be if it goes forward.
Yeah, I mean, it's really a pretty unprecedented proposal. What's essentially being proposed, as I read it, it's kind of a poorly drafted RFP because it's so vague. But essentially, this would be in-house counsel for 3 of the 5 departments. The services detailed in the RFP, they're redundant. Those are already under the purview by the charter of the city attorney, and all these departments have access to the city attorney. It's not clear if the city attorney, I have no reason to believe that they're overwhelmed, that office. I mean, there's 2 attorneys in there and an executive assistant who are handling those matters. So I don't see any reason to believe that they're overwhelmed or otherwise incapable of doing the work. So best I can discern, this is because Dylan Moran is unhappy with the answers he's getting. And so he wants to hire someone who's going to give him the answers he wants, whether it's on call or what have you.
I will say that is kind of the impression I got when I was reading it, is that it almost seems kind of like doctor shopping, so to speak, and I say that also in the context of there have been opinions from our city attorneys over the last couple of weeks that haven't carried weight with some members of the council. Like they've sought the opinion of our city attorneys and then they've kind of dismissed those opinions because they didn't like them. It didn't suit them.
Exactly. And one thing that comes to mind aside from the on-call issue is the short-term rentals. Dylan's big talking point was short-term rentals are already illegal. And he was putting it on Facebook. He was saying it at meetings over and over again. Well, it turns out if you actually sit down and read the section he was citing, it clearly doesn't apply to short-term rentals. It might apply if you're renting out a room in your house, but the traditional Airbnb where you rent out the entire house, it just doesn't apply to that. So the city attorney actually issued a contrary opinion to Dylan Moran. I'm sure that didn't make him happy because it probably didn't make him look very smart. to the public. So he's looking, it seems to me, for someone who's going to give him the answers he's looking for. Legally, it's questionable whether you can do it under the charter. But the thing just at a surface level that gets me, this is going to be very expensive. We're talking tens of thousands of dollars likely for services that are already provided by a city attorney's office that by all indications is competent and able to do these services.
For a city that's already paying a lot of money to both in-house and law firms on many different things, you and I being attorneys, we should be happy with this. It's full employment for attorneys everywhere.
Well, we'll see. I'm going to put in a proposal here. We'll see if Dylan accepts it.
As the one non-attorney, I beg to differ. So my only kind of observation on the city attorney's office when I was in City Hall was that Vince Dillenardis was there, as was Tony Izzo, and they were, jammed. Their plates were seriously, seriously full. And so my only thought was that I think Dave Harper is part-time right now as our city attorney. And I would certainly support his going to a full-time position. I think you do need 2 full-time city attorneys with the amount of, issues and things that they do day to day just to help the whole city council. But as you did mention, and I think it's important to point out, the city attorney is a political appointment, but that's made by the mayor. And they do also report into the mayor's department. And I know there has been in the past, I think around 2015, when there were some issues with Joanne Yepsen, I believe some of the members of the council might have floated the idea of having their own attorney when those kind of ethics issues were going on with Joanne Yepsen. And I also recall there being kind of a conflict with how the charter read and wanting to have individual legal representation for departments.
Yeah. So you've got issues with the charter itself. And then you probably understand this as well. From an attorney's perspective, if you're representing, so if you gameplay this out, someone's brought in to represent the accounts department. That is their client. They're going to be being paid by the city, and their retention is approved by the city council. Now, what if the council and the accounts department disagree? What if the mayor refuses to sign something that the accounts department wants signed? Well, then that's going to give rise to an Article 78. Who is suing who? Who's paying for it? I mean, the ethical, it's an ethical minefield for any attorney that's going to go after this and try to chase some easy money. It's going to be a bit of a mess. And knowing how Dylan operates and things like this, it seems likely that it's going to get into some sketchy grounds here.
A quick interjection there, and I know you know the answer, but I gotta emphasize it. Who's paying for it? We are, the taxpayers. It's always the answer. We're paying for it.
That's the number one concern here, right? That's all the legality, ethics, all this aside. This is bad government. How many? There's not 2 popes. Right? There's not 2 captains of a ship. There's a city attorney because you need a centralized repository for this advice, for the communication from the city. All of a sudden, we're going to have attorneys issuing opinions on behalf of the accounts department, which conflict with the opinions of the city attorney, which might conflict with the opinions of an attorney for the public works department. It's ripe for issues.
I was just going to say, one of the pitfalls we know of having a commission form of government is that it's easy for the departments to get siloed. And only 2 people can talk at once. Otherwise, it triggers open meetings laws. And so it's already really difficult, in my opinion, to build consensus with your fellow commissioners and the mayor to get normal legislation passed. If you also have to build consensus amongst the attorneys as well, that just seems like it would just add so much more time and really time to getting a resolution up and getting it voted on.
Absolutely. That's going to be expensive. We're going to be paying attorneys to talk to each other. I mean,
this is just can we go 14 days in the city? I just want 2 weeks of no blaring dysfunction. That's all a reasonable thing to ask for.
It'd be nice. It'd be nice. I take a bit of blame for that. I wish we could have found additional candidates last year, but it was a tough pool to pick from. We just lost 5 seats 2 years prior, so it was tough to recruit people. And I think this time around you'll see a different looking slate, because we've shown people that we can win on row B, and certainly one Saratoga playing a role in that as well.
I mean, I actually do think the city council is functioning fairly well, all things considered. I just think their Achilles heel is that they've decided to tackle issues that are really, really complicated. Deciding to address short-term rentals, deciding to address paid parking, deciding to address homelessness. these are all like super challenging and complex issues. So I feel like all things considered, they're operating fairly well. But I will say, I spoke to some of my sources in City Hall, and the impression I was left with was that not all of the city council members were aware this RFP had been issued. So I'm really curious to hear the discussion at the next city council meeting about this, to see if that was the case, because I suspect that some of the other council members think that the city attorney's office could use some more help, generally speaking, but may not be in favor of this individual attorneys for individual departments.
Yeah, that's if that's the issue, that the city attorney's office is overworked and is not being responsive, then there's ways to do that. You can bring in, and it's fairly common to bring in an outside firm to assist the city attorney with those general services. The city attorney is still the city attorney. Your individual commissioners cannot reach out to that firm, and your requests have to go through the city attorney. So they're there to serve the city attorney's office, who retains the powers under the charter. That is fairly common for municipalities to do. I lost my train of thought.
Well, and so, I really think this context is going to be helpful in terms of understanding this proposal. But also, didn't you think it was kind of weird that the public safety department was left off the list of getting their own attorney?
Yeah, I think that goes to show you that this at its heart is a political issue. They're looking to have a attorney for their caucus in a way. They're the 3 Democrat endorsed people. Again, I'm not sure who's aware of what, but that's clearly an issue here. And what's going to, prove an issue for them is, Manita's running for Senate right now. She's a commissioner of finance. This is going to be expensive, as we've discussed. So she's going to have to sit up there and talk about how we're going to pay for this and why she's voting for it. And to the extent, I found my train of thought that I lost before. To the extent that they're going to say this is an issue about being overworked, yes, there's a solution for that. If they're going to say that this is a political issue, that they're not getting served because there's political differences, Tony Izzo was appointed by Ron Kim and was used by the rest of this council for 2 years with no complaints. So why all of a sudden is there complaints? I think that if that's what this is, it's disingenuous. So I think this is going to pose some issues for Golub and Manita if they're indeed going to be in favor of this.
Well, and I do think it's again important to point out Dave Harper, the one of the city attorneys, is a political appointment and is, I believe, a Republican, but I haven't observed any real partisanship in terms of his opinions or how he's interacted. I mean, we're on the outside, obviously, so we only know what we see. But I haven't really heard or witnessed any kind of partisan.
I'll give you an example of Dave Harper's nonpartisanship. So I had not was not aware of Dave Harper at all until he applied for the job as city attorney. So he's not a party. He's not. I think he used to be involved in the party.
He's not an operative.
He's not an operative. He's not a committeeman. He doesn't walk petitions for us. I don't think he donated to any of our candidates, as far as I'm aware of. So Dave Harper's not a political person. In fact, he's pushing back pretty hard on my open meetings lawsuit right now that we're fighting. It's a separate issue. So so I don't think Dave Harper is a political person. I think he's probably looking at this position as any attorney does. He's a practicing attorney. He's got a reputation. So he certainly, has that in mind when he's acting in the role of city attorney.
He's well thought of. He's got a lot of experience with DA's office for years and so forth. A quick aside there, though. What I know you had you sued the city on FOIL and won and got some attorney's fees on it. You have a separate lawsuit against the city of Saratoga. Does that exist? Yeah.
So that was filed shortly after my FOIL lawsuit. We uncovered a series of an email vote, a vote that was taken by email. Regarding a waiver of a 30-day notice waiver provision for the liquor authority. For liquor licenses to be amended, you need to provide notice, and it's typical that they're just waived. It's a fairly innocent act, but you got to do it in public. You can't do it behind the scenes by email. Committee on Open Government is very clear. You cannot take email votes. So I filed suit on that shortly before Election Day last year. I proposed to the city council, new council. I said, all right, let's get rid of this thing. Let's try to settle it. So we proposed to the city council, if you guys will sit through a training provided by the Committee on Open Government, it takes about an hour and a half. I'll drop the case. I'll walk away. No fees, no nothing. Pretty fair proposal. In fact, I would hope that they would do that, of training from the Committee on Open Government without litigation forcing them to. As I understand it, a majority of the council was in favor of it. and a council person who you could probably guess refused to go along with it, said they would not go through it with the training. So because of that, the litigation is proceeding. And it's pretty frustrating to see that, but unfortunately, Harper and cooler heads in the council cannot control this person.
I know what was offered in negotiation, but what were you asking in the lawsuit? What can the Committee on Open Government do? There's limited,
a violation. Right? Yep, a violation of the open meetings law can be. There's a few different statutory remedies. One, you can get a pretty much a declaratory judgment from the court that a violation did take place, that this was illegal, you can't do it. Okay. The second thing is if the court determines that a vote was taken in violation of the open meetings law, attorney's fees are mandatory. So like last time with the FOIL suit, I was awarded my attorney's fees from the city. Dylan Moran actually voted against paying them despite the court order. And the third thing you can get for open meetings law violation is the court can actually order training. They can say you're required to undergo this training. So I've asked for all three of those things. So I was willing to waive entitlement to fees. I didn't need any declaratory judgment, or I wasn't even asking for an admission. And actually, the city already admitted last December in two separate resolutions that this was a violation by resolution.
Are you the attorney, the client, or both?
I'm the client in this one. My attorney is Chris Obstarzik.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you.
So we'll be seeing, we submitted our that's going to be fully submitted to the court. There's a conference coming up. We should have resolution on that fairly shortly.
Well, I will say it was like kind of shocking to me, like when I was going on the city council, that like there's no training at all, like about anything. You're just kind of thrown into it. And fortunately, I've been on enough boards that I'm familiar with Robert's Rules of Order, for example, which is how the meetings are run. But you would think that any city council person would want to have a refresher on open meetings laws, Robert's Rules of Order, just general procedural stuff, so they make sure they're staying on the right side of everything. Just seems like
it's to protect the city. It's to protect our rights as citizens to have access to things we're supposed to have access to ensure that these things going forward are done the correct way. And in the course of the open meeting suit, I did a FOIL request that revealed in the 6 months prior to the lawsuit being filed, there were 7 instances of the prior council voting by email and even text message. So this was something that was going on rampant under the prior administration. And it has to stop. And I understand I foiled additionally, and it seems to have stopped, or at least I'm not receiving evidence of further email and text voting, but it was a rampant practice under the prior administration.
Well, that kind of makes sense to me because the prior administration had literally zero experience. They were almost all brand new when they took office. And I noticed they were pretty unfamiliar with a lot of how things were supposed to be kind of just running and operating in general.
Right. And a big issue there was gutting the city attorney's office early on. They lost any sort of guidance, any sort of municipal law experience. And by the time they brought ISO back on, I don't know to what extent they were listening to Tony back then or what extent he was offering, the advice that was needed.
And that's, of course, Mike referencing Mayor Kim letting go the city attorney because he felt basically that he and his deputy mayor could do all the legalese themselves, which was obviously an extremely misguided opinion. It was actually during one of those council meetings, though, early on in that term, that this issue came up from Commissioner Moran of needing his own legal representation because they had let go this. They had nobody. And so in that instance, to me, it made sense because, you have to have a city attorney. It's the
same issue there in a different light, where if Kim is the city attorney, he's also the mayor. So how can he give a fiduciary duty to Dylan Moran or to the city when he has his own interests as the mayor's department? It's the same issue with Dylan Moran having his own attorney. How can that attorney be representing the city on one hand, the accounts department on the other hand, and other commissioners on the other hand? It's just a mess. It's just a terribly thought out proposal.
Yeah, who's your client, right?
Exactly.
I'm just thinking out loud here, Robin. I just want to tell our viewers, and Mike, you're a great guest. We like to have you on now and again. You are partisan. You slip it in. You give objective things, and I'm good with that. But Robin, I'm just thinking out loud. Perhaps next week, if this issue doesn't get moved off by a bigger issue, because Saratoga being Saratoga, there's a city council meeting between this meeting and next one. We may want to invite Dylan Moran on. He will decline. He will decline, I bet, because he. When it's a hot issue, he declines. I get that. But maybe we invite somebody else from the city council or somebody else to give a view, just so we always strive to be balanced on this podcast.
And I understand that completely, Dan, but I will say, I'm not in this position because I'm a Republican. I'm in this position because I care about the city, and this is, what I know. I know politics. I know this part of the law, and so this is a position where I feel like I can be of service to the people. I'm not trying to be a judge. I'm not trying to do anything. This is just something I do because I do care about the city. We moved here for a reason. So it is coming from understanding the title and the inherent, bias there. Everything I try to do does come from a nonpartisan place.
Yeah, I believe this. Some of it, and maybe you're doing it subconsciously. You're slipping in occasional, and I get that. I'm listen. Well, I'll say the city suffers when it does not have a two-party system.
My desire to have Dylan Moran out of office, I think, is something that should be shared by all members of the public, not just Republicans. I think Democrats should be equally concerned with his conduct. I think, frankly, a lot of what he's done is dangerous, and it might sound inflammatory, but I truly think it is. And I think people got to read the news, pay attention to what's going on. He's being sued again. We just settled. He was named in the notice of claim for Maryland Rivers suit. We just settled that for $100,000. He's being sued again for retaliation, all sorts of nasty things. And as I understand it, there's more out there. So it's concerning to me as a citizen, regardless of politics.
I have my concerns about him. In fairness to him, that lawsuit is still ongoing, unproven allegations at this point.
I will say, what saddens me about Commissioner Moran is that I do think he's gotten himself into some hot water through his actions and behavior. But it's a bummer to me because I do think he has so much passion for the city, and I think he really, truly loves Saratoga Springs. I just sometimes think he gets the better of himself. But, he seems to work extremely hard, and he does tackle really challenging issues that people, previously have ignored. And so it's kind of a shame that some of his kind of antics, for lack of a better word, get in the way of having a more positive output.
And you're trying to think, I wonder what might have been, if he came up in a council that didn't have Kim and the acrimony and where this kind of behavior was accepted. If he was told early on, hey, that doesn't fly. That's not how you conduct yourself. Maybe it'd be different, but it's what we got.
Well, I'm definitely going to invite him on next week. And in the past, he has been really
I'll be watching if you do.
He has been open to coming on and addressing things that, are important for the public or that he wants to clarify. And so hopefully, he'll consider coming on. And Dan and I always try to make people feel warm and fuzzy. So, it wouldn't be like hardball over here. But
well, I hope he does come on, because I think the public deserves to hear from him and hear some answers on regardless of the warm and fuzzies. I think it'd still be valuable.
I agree. And we do have Commissioner Songvi, I believe, coming on in mid-May, which I think having her address the financial component of this would be very important, because I do think if you're hiring 3 additional attorneys, that's like hundreds of thousands of dollars pretty much. And the way they've talked about the budget, it just seems unnecessary. But I'll be interested to see at the next council meeting, see what this is really, the kind of genesis of this was. If it really is because Commissioner Moran feels everyone needs their own attorney, or if it came out of this kind of need for more support in the city attorney's office, because that's such an important distinction.
If that's what it is, then it's got to go through the mayor's office. That department is under that's like if Tim Cole was trying to bring in more help for the assessor. It's just, different silos here.
Yeah. I mean, you usually don't write a resolution that has to do with other departments. You write it for your own department, if you don't put an RFP out for other departments, it's kind of unheard of. Well, Mike, thank you so much for joining us. This was great. We really appreciate your observations and insight on all.
Anytime, guys. It's always a pleasure.
Is that a Rangers hat there?
Sure is.
Okay.
Got the sweep. On to the Hurricanes. Let's go get them.
Good for you. I wish them luck.
Me too. Go New Yorker. Go Rangers. Love it. Thank you, Mike, so much. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mike.
Bye. Well, that was so interesting.
Yeah, I'm glad we had him on, and especially if next week we at least offer it to somebody else. He's always, I had a bad email exchange with him probably before I met him once or twice. We had a little bit of a tit for tat kind of thing, and just not horrible, not ugly, but just a little poking. And since I met him, I can't help but like him.
Yeah, I hear that. I hear that. So moving on to one other little piece of news that people were kind of freaking out about that I feel like we just have to very briefly touch on. Tell me you were not surprised that they found Kane the cat, and they found Kane the cat alive.
Not only was I surprised, I was skeptical that it was the right cat. I'm like,
I
are we
know.
sure?
So Kane the cat, for those who don't know, but I feel like most people who have any social media presence at all probably know about this. Kane the cat was a cat that lived next door to Spring Street Deli and would wander into Spring Street Deli from time to time. Long story short, the owner of Spring Street Deli took the cat and dropped it off outside an animal shelter, but it was the dead of winter. The animal shelter was closed. So he essentially kind of like threw it out the window and left it kind of to die. It was super cold. I remember when this was happening. So there have been people out looking for this cat, like doing like grid searches for this cat. Like I've actually never seen quite an effort mobilized, like the effort that mobilized trying to find Kane the cat. But this happened a couple months ago. And so I think most people thought, it was highly unlikely that this cat would survive the winter. Well, apparently there was a couple who had Kane the cat coming up in their backyard, and they started leaving food out for the cat. And then I don't know who connected to, but they figured out it might be Kane and told his owners, who came over and apparently, recognized Kane the cat, and Kane started purring and recognized his owners. And so they were happily reunited.
If that cat could talk those 2 or 3 months, can you imagine what a story that cat could tell? I mean, it was supposed to die in that cold out there, and who wouldn't think it would? If you saw the movie with Michael J. Fox, what was it, Homeward Bound, with the 2 dogs and a cat?
Oh my God, I love that movie. Yes,
yeah.
And the Chinese cat.
This might, someone may pick this up as a kid's movie or something.
I totally know what you mean. Yeah. I totally know what you mean. I, of course, am not the biggest fan of cats. Love Kane. So happy Kane is alive. But to me, this is like very, very on brand for cats. Very dramatic, very, high attention move by this cat. No, I'm just teasing.
And we've talked some viciousness towards the owner of Spring Street Deli that's come of this all. And maybe someone will get mad at me, but Spring Street Deli is a good local restaurant that employs people, that is a good neighborhood restaurant. I'm hoping we can move beyond this. He paid a price. He pled. He paid a price. I'm hoping the neighborhood, if you will, the community amongst there can move on.
I'm hoping they freaking put a microchip in that cat, like every other pet owner does. Wouldn't that be like your first order of business?
Or not letting the cat outside would also, that's
I'd be like microchipping the cat. I'd have an Apple AirTag on the cat's collar. Yeah. I'd have like 85 GPS locators on that cat. And yes, hopefully they can work it out with the neighborhood. I'm sure they will. But it was really very surprising and happy news to wake up to. Although also my first reaction was like, from Meet the Parents, when they have Jinxie Cat who goes missing.
Okay. Yeah.
And then Ben Stiller buys like a replacement cat and is like, Jinxie Cat, and tried to swap out the cats. Anyway, couldn't help but think about that and kind of giggle. But anyway,
two movie references, Homeward Bound and
I know. Meet the Parents. Okay, Homeward, but both classics, I might add. So yay, hooray for Kane. We're delighted to hear that Kane made it through the winter. That is one tough kitty. So do we have a comment or two here. One sec. Ginny says, I believe that Dylan Moran would not have been reelected had someone run against him. Thus, we are left with him, and quote his antics. That is correct. No one ran against him in the last election cycle. Whereas prior to that, when he was first elected, he was running against 2 people. Then we have Patty said, yes, drop the charges. I believe she's referring to the lawsuit with Mike and dropping the charges in exchange for doing some training, I think, probably.
Or the owner of Spring Street Deli. I mean, that case is done. That case is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
He said he pled.
No dropping the charges just because the cat came back. That case is done.
Right. Anyhow, what else? Did you have anything else, Dan, for today?
Um, just let me go back to what I said, and Mike touched on it, the the lawsuit, the whistleblower lawsuit against the city and Dylan Moran. That's kind of what I was referring to. In the month of April, we have these two things going on: the announcement of the lawsuit, or the revelation of the lawsuit, as well as this attorney thing, and just a bunch of little things in between. This council is, and I know there's some carryover people, but this council is a million times better than the council from a year ago, the
Agree.
last term. But and the issues may not be with the council itself. It may be individuals. Commissioner Moran being one of them. I'm trying to be fair to him, but I'm not afraid to point out where I think he can be a problem. And but there's still problems here, is my point. And just in this city, and the dysfunction and the disregarding of the law and rules and the naked ambition and so forth, it continues on.
Yeah, no, I agree. There definitely have been some moments where I've been watching the city council, and yeah, the disregard for procedure especially has been like kind of very, very concerning. And I think that you can get into city hall and feel really great about yourself maybe, and feel really great about all the things you're doing, and maybe get some blinders on as to when you need some kind of reality checks, and also realize that it's not all about you and taking, credit for things. It's about doing things that are productive and functional and collaborative.
Let me throw out two words in a term that makes some people groan and some people maybe get excited. And is it time for charter change?
Oh, Jesus God. So here's what I have to say about charter change. So there have been so many efforts made to change the charter, but they've all largely been made by the same group of people who put together an initial proposal for an alternative form of government. And then every time their ballot resolution lost and charter change wasn't passed, they would adjust the proposal for what our new form of government should be, and kind of try to pitch it again and see if they could win, again, by adjusting a few things here or there. And I think that group in particular, if there was an effort for charter change, it couldn't be from that group anymore, because I think they have, used up any political capital they have. I think they're way too in it, and it became way too personal for them. And it created a lot of acrimony, and there was never clear or logical explanations on why they came up with the alternative form of government they were coming up with. And it was just rife with drama and nastiness, and as a result, failed every time. So I'm personally more a supporter of what we have written into our charter already, which is every 10 years you put together a charter review committee who reviews how the charter is working for the city government and ways in which they could streamline things. And so that process is a process I'm on board with, and it's already, worked into our charter, versus having an outside group put together an alternative form of government again and make that huge effort to completely change the form of government.
I guess my question is, how much, and again, I keep using the word dysfunction, how many problems and lawsuits and things. I mean, this is so dysfunctional, continuously so now for a while. And part of it is the form of government, I believe. And I didn't mean to drag us into a deep thing, but just, I don't know, maybe it's time, because I think that 10-year cycle is still a few years out, right? So we just did it 4 or 5 years ago. Was that right?
I think Mayor Kelly did it in her at the beginning of her first term, which would have been maybe 2017, I think. Yeah.
Well, sneak up on us. The 10 years.
So kind of coming up. But I'm looking at this article right now in the Daily Gazette that came out about former employee sues Saratoga Springs account commissioner.
Yes.
And this is kind of the kind of whistleblower lawsuit you had mentioned before. And none of this has anything to do with the form of government. You know what I mean? The lawsuit with Marilyn Rivers, I don't think I suppose they were fighting over what department she should be in, but I don't think the form of government would have, had an effect on that lawsuit. I think it's more the behavior of people in office and the workplace environment that they're working in.
Well, we've got 5 fiefdoms, though. We have 5 executive level council members that most cities don't have that. They're legislators. and
Yeah.
they're not really in charge of departments. The mayor or the city manager is. So I don't know. I totally agree with you that I think part of it is having 5 different people in charge, right? We have 5 mayors, and I just don't know if that works.
I think it's all about their mindset. I mean, to me, it was like the obvious pitfall of this form of government is getting siloed. And so going into this position, you want to make every effort possible to keep the communication channels open and communication going. And I think as long as people put in good faith effort to keep the communication happening, and keep those channels open, it really does offset a lot of the pitfalls of having 5 executives, as you say. But the second somebody kind of opts out and just goes rogue and starts doing their own thing and maybe puts out RFPs about other departments that they don't even know about, then things do quickly go to shit. And it's certainly frustrating. And it's also, not to go on and on, but it's also really frustrating because I know how much effort goes into all the work at City Hall, and it really doesn't even begin to equate the output. Like so much goes in and like a little bit comes out. And so it feels unfair to all the people who work in City Hall that their effort doesn't necessarily translate into the final product.
Okay. I get that. Hey, I want to hitch to something cold, but it's something I think you've been following. There's been some movement on the school board elections, right? Are you prepared to talk about that? Because I know you follow that more than I do.
Yes. So I've been away for the last 3 days. What I do know is that one of the candidates from the last school board election, Joe, I forget how to pronounce his last name. It's Sabanos.
Sabanos or
Yeah.
Sabanos? Yes.
Do you remember we had him on the podcast? We interviewed him.
I do.
So,
he lived in Greenfield, so he was not eligible to run for city, any city seats, but because the school district covers part of Greenfield, he lives in the district, so he can run.
correct. And I remember being like super impressed with him when we had him on the show. But he's decided to throw his hat in the ring and is petitioning to get on the school board ballot. I think the petitions are due today. So presumably he got his 100 signatures, but I know he is full speed ahead in campaigning for one of these school board seats. And then also, surprisingly, John Ellis, who has been on the school board for years and has really served our community well by all the work he's done on the school board, is not running for re-election, which I was really surprised about.
Yeah, I think you told me that. I thought he was running. In fact, Connie Wojtowicz, if I'm saying her name correctly, asked for people to vote for him on her piece on John Kaufman's Saratoga Politics blog. So that was kind of I think a recent decision, at least based on what I saw. For all I know, he decided weeks ago, and it was just miscommunication. I don't know, but so yeah, that was interesting. I think, Robin, we should have a day where we give all candidates 10-15 minutes an opportunity to be on here, and we do a quick interview of each one.
Yeah, absolutely. I've asked Connie. I don't believe she can, but I have reached out to Amanda. I will reach out to Joe and then touch base with the other 2 candidates. And yeah, I think that would be great. I mean, the school board is really important. It's really important, the people that you elect to your school board. And I sometimes think people don't realize that until the big controversial issue comes up that needs to be handled by the school board. And then, people come out yelling and screaming and are unhappy with the representation they have there. So
yeah, it's essentially a second city council in many ways. They have that much power.
Yeah, no, it is. I quite agree. And the election is on May 21st. I know on May 14th, the Women's League of Voters is having a candidate forum, not a debate, but kind of a meet the candidates forum. But I think meeting the candidates here would be a whole lot better than that.
We want to offer that. And we'll offer it. If some will come, some may not be able to. That's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we will absolutely do that. I think that's about all I had. Was there a short-term rental update?
No, but it's, I'm waiting. The ball is in Commissioner Moran's court, right? Because he's told me in an email, and I think he's announced at a city council meeting, that the 2.0 version of his original proposal, which I believe will be a significant departure from some of the aspects of his first proposal. I don't know what specifically those departures would be, but that's coming out. Now, he's not under such a gun because I mentioned it last time that the state legislature did not, the state legislature and the governor did not put anything in the budget, in the final version of the budget, in the past version of the budget, regarding short-term rentals. There is a belief there's something may happen before the legislature adjourns in June. So that still could be coming from the state. But Commissioner Moran painted it that a little bit of a gun to our head because the state's going to take action in the budgets. And that didn't happen in the budget. Again, it could happen in the next, month, 5 weeks or something, as long as the legislature is going to be there. They're going to hightail it quickly out of town to get back to campaign. But so I don't expect the elongated June session there. So just waiting for Commissioner Moran to propose something.
And it is such a complicated piece of legislation, and so I'm sure it's taking some time. And hopefully, I'm sure he's been taking in the feedback from the public hearings. But hopefully, whatever is proposed, there's also an ample amount of time to kind of digest it and let the public respond again, because I think it's worth going through a second round of that, depending on what he's proposing. And obviously, it's not going to apply to this summer, so I think time is a good thing here.
Yeah, and the gentleman we had on, the short-term rental expert, Goodman, I believe, Jeffrey
Goodman. Yep.
Yeah, he said one or two things that really hit home with me. He said, if you're trying to make everybody happy with your short-term rental policy, that's a fool's errand. You will not do that. And then he's kind of continued on that vein and said, my term here is someone has to be daddy and tell whoever it is, this is the way it is. And here's the reasoning behind it.
Don't you mean somebody has to be mommy and do that? Kidding.
Yeah, mommy. Yeah, I don't want to be sexist here, mommy or daddy. But they have to. I believe they'll do the right thing for the right reasons. And again, they have to set goals. What are the goals? And he listed, each different municipalities have different goals for their short-term rental program. I want to hear clearly what the goals are in this one.
Yeah. That's been my biggest issue with this, which I've expressed on this podcast before, is that it seems like we're kind of looking at a moving goalpost all the time. And I'm not really sure what the priority is to get accomplished. And I think Jeffrey Goodman said this as well. He was like, what do you want your community to look like in 5 years with this piece of legislation in place? And kind of like, how do we visualize the goal of how this is put into practice?
Yeah, exactly.
My goal, of course, is just to have a clean enough house. I was just going to say my personal goal for short-term renting is just to have, with my house with 4 kids, clean enough such that I could do an Airbnb. Because right now, the idea of cleaning it and getting it all prepped for anyone to come in June makes me want to, it would have to be my full-time job. It would have to be my full-time job.
The potential money is eye-popping, and you're right. I would have a similar challenge, probably some repairs on top of that. But then I just don't know I can have anybody in my house. I just don't. Sleeping in my daughter's bed, sleeping in my bed. I don't know if I'm up for that. Even though I can pocket $10,000 in 5 days.
Yeah. We actually did it 2 or 3 times over the last couple of years, and it was actually like fantastic all 3 times. Like the people who came were like grown-ups, responsible. There weren't that many of them. They left like a gift for us at the end. Like it was just a really positive experience. And my God, you can make a shit ton, excuse my language, but you can make a lot of money, especially living on Lower Caroline Street. Although also living on Lower Caroline Street, we got so many like groups of like 15 guys who were coming for the weekend to see Dave Matthews, who wanted to rent our house. And I was like, absolutely not. Hard no. Yeah. But anyhow, I think that's pretty much all we have for the week, unless we want to do some cheers and jeers.
I've got 1 or 2.
Okay, let's do it. Cheer and jeer. What do you have?
Okay, my first one, it's not really a jeer, it's a pet peeve, okay?
Okay.
The band Blues Traveler is coming. Oh, I'll wait for the graphic.
My fancy graphic.
Okay. The band Blues Traveler is coming, as we announced earlier. It's not Blues Travelers. It's Blues Traveler. And it's not Chianti's. It's Chianti. So kind of a fun pet peeve of mine. But it does bother me when those mistakes are made.
So singular, not plural, people.
Yes, exactly. my cheer was, I was scrambling, as you know, Robin. I couldn't help you. Robin does 98% of the back work on this podcast. Cheers her, and she asked me to do some of the front work here, the back work here to set this up. I was too busy scrambling on Saratoga Report to put out word of this press conference earlier. So I'm searching news. Who's the first with it? Channel 13, I think usually it's Mark Mulholland, always gets Saratoga news. They had it last night. They announced early that they, basically it was, sources indicate it's going to be Blues Traveler. Again, that's not hard news, but it's fun news, right? So good for them. Good for them. And the Daily Gazette, soon after the press conference, had something up. And at least searching Google News, I couldn't find anyone else that had it up as quickly as Channel 13 and the Daily Gazette, who both lead their categories, TV and newspapers, respectively, in the amount of Saratoga news and the timeliness of it. I think they're the best of the two, or the best of the two categories.
Well, Dan, you can always be late for breaking news because as a former news producer, breaking news takes precedence. So no problem. You always go for the headline first. I can do the back end stuff. That was no problem. And this was a fun one to share. There was really quickly one topic that I wanted to bring up that we had kind of skipped over by accident, which is there's a plan protest planned for tonight. That is, hold on, I'm going to just look it up for you guys. It's at 6 p.m. in Congress Park, and it's a pro-Palestinian, hold on, let me read it to you guys exactly. Okay, Saratoga BLM is one of the sponsors, and it is a May Day rally for Palestine in Congress Park today at 6 p.m. I have a hard time with this. I do.
I'm surprised it took this long to get to Saratoga when you think about it, with what's going on in the college campuses and so forth.
True, especially given how active Skidmore usually is.
Yeah.
But just given, I guess, what's going on at other college campuses, given what I'm seeing at Columbia University, it's been really, I'm going to curse again. It's been really fucking disturbing. Really fucking disturbing. And so I guess it just gives me pause on any kind of rally or protest that's going to be pro-Palestinian, because these things just seem to be laced with such an undercurrent of anti-Semitism and kind of violence. And I'm not going, suffice to say.
I suspect this will be one of many, right? Here in Saratoga, I don't think there's gonna be one and done.
I hope not.
As long as this issue keeps on going, as long as Columbia University and many other institutes, colleges and so forth are having these problems, I think we're going to continue to have the protesting from both sides, right? From both sides of the issue. I did see something. I did see a statistic that young people, under the age of 30, I don't know what that exact line is there, but a large number of young people are siding, I'll say against Israel, from what I've seen.
You just triggered like the world's largest eye roll for me. When you're in college, you're in a totally different mindset. You're down for a cause, whatever the cause is. I protested at Cornell. I look back, I still think what I was protesting for was like the righteous cause. But college campuses are not a reflection of the real world in any way, shape, or form. And I understand obviously the importance for, younger students and college kids to protest in general, and the impact that's had on, our society and our culture and our politics in America for, decades and decades. But I don't take it that seriously. Is that bad to say? I guess
I wasn't so much referring from what I heard, and I'm just quoting a statistic that Scott Galloway, a podcast I follow, mentioned once 3-4 weeks ago. And so I don't know what the line is, but it sounded like it was a little beyond college. It was just an age based, which obviously includes college when you're going below a certain age. So I just sort of, I don't know what to think about all this. I pay attention. I've been trying to pay attention to it all. And, perhaps some people are saying, well, my God, Dan, you got to think this. And I'm still taking it all in.
Okay. So for me, it's just, I understand the issue of the humanitarian crisis in Palestine. I totally get that. And I think some of the things that have happened, with not being like the World Food Kitchen, not being able to get food in for, some time, have been atrocious. And I haven't always agreed with everything Israel has done in this conflict. But my real problem is I especially don't understand how a younger generation who's so sensitive to people being marginalized or victimized, or having hate thrown at them, how they could allow for so much anti-Semitism to be, again, the undercurrent of so many of these rallies, and how they could not acknowledge that Jews have been, brutalized, victimized, victims of hate, for forever, for centuries and centuries. That, how do you not acknowledge that? It's bizarre. It's crazy to me. It's like I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
Exactly. So many things that come to mind. I mean, I don't believe it's propaganda. I think children are starving there. And obviously what you said about the Jews, what they've gone through in history, and this unprovoked attack from left field, so it all pains me, right, from every side. I know Hamas is hiding in hospitals, right? So it's insane. We're so fortunate here in this country. I don't know if Americans appreciate how fortunate we are.
I totally fucking agree, because if I was just to get in the mindset of being a student at Columbia University, this prestigious Ivy League college, paying what you're paying to go there, taking out loans or however you're financing your education to be there, somehow getting into the mindset of smashing windows to get into, one of the halls, to raise the Palestinian flag, to, occupy buildings, to do the shit they're doing. It's just beyond me. It's just beyond me. So many people would kill to be in the position they're in and get the education that Columbia offers. And that seems like it's the last thing, on their mind, that they just want to raise fucking havoc instead. And it's like, what the fuck are you doing? You're there to learn. Go back to fucking studying. Sorry, I'm cursing a ton, but it just really, really bothers me.
It is an obvious comparison, but it really does. There seems to be so many parallels with the Vietnam War and the protests and so forth 50 years ago, 50 plus years ago, 55 years ago. When I was a kid, I remember even a little bit of seeing things, just a little bit. I'm 58, so I was, in the early 70s, I was starting to pay attention and caught a few things. But
Vietnam, my God, people are being drafted. I mean, we just had there was assassinations happening. It was a wild and horrific in so many ways time in our country. Can you imagine this generation if suddenly there were? I mean, the thought of a draft. I mean, it's just I don't know. It's crazy. It seems like the span of time hasn't been that long between these two things. What's going on now and what you're talking about, the college, campuses during Vietnam, but different breed of people.
Someone suggested we should have a draft, not just for the military, but for some sort of national service. Every young person has to do some sort of national service, the Peace Corps, some offshoots of that, whatever. And they said that could be something that solves a problem. Not that
like what they do in Israel.
But yeah. And whereas that generation has absolutely something in common, whereas right now they don't. This nation's so divided.
I know. I agree with that in a way, that having some kind of compulsory experience that would kind of, unite people and in a bit of national pride, and kind of uniting them as a country, and remembering, just remembering how privileged they are to be standing on the campus of Columbia University and not piss away that fucking privilege and, have to go to virtual classes or shutting down the school and all the shit that they're dealing with instead of getting an education. It just seems like the height of American privilege, I suppose. Anyway.
Oh, we got somber, didn't we?
I know. Let's get back into the happies again. I was traveling, and so I don't think I have any off the top of my head. Jeers.
While you're thinking, we never mentioned Adam could not be here. Adam Israel.
Oh yeah,
could not be here this one, but hopefully he can. I think he'll be able to make it next week, and there will be a city council meeting next Tuesday night. So something tells me we'll have some interesting things to talk about by Wednesday.
I will not be here, my friend. I will be in San Francisco for my brother's wedding. So
Ah,
someone's gonna have to do the podcast on the back end without
okay.
me. I don't know.
Okay.
We'll do
I'll fudge my way through it, Robin. Just have your phone. Just have your phone as the bride's walking down the aisle if I desperately call you.
I'll be like ducking like this while the vows are being said, piping in because I have to, you know. Well, thank you, my friend. Always good to see you. And thanks everybody for watching. Like, subscribe to us on YouTube. You can find us on any podcast platform. Share, like, follow, all those things. We had a nice big live audience today. So thanks to everybody again who was watching. And I'm going to work on getting our call-in number set up again so we could have people call in and comment while we're talking about some of these issues. So I think that'll be kind of fun moving forward.
That's going to be wild. Okay.
I know. We can handle it.
Thanks for watching, folks.
All right. Over and out.